Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for today's video because I'm going to be talking to you about 15 makeup products in my collection that I have used so much that I feel like I have gotten my money's worth out of these products. So I thought it would be fun to share these products with you guys today because if I feel like I've gotten my money's worth out of these products, they have to be good enough for me to be using over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So like I said, I have 15 products to share. There's quite an array of products and not necessarily all products that I would consider like my tippity top favorite products, but definitely products that I obviously really enjoy and reach for on a very, very consistent basis. So if you're interested in seeing which 15 products I have to share with you guys today, stay tuned. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel and you like project painting content, palette themed content, or just chit chatting about makeup, I'd love for you to consider subscribing before moving on. And other than that, let's jump into the video. All right, I'm gonna start with maybe the two least exciting products first. Up first, I have this Ilia eyeliner. This is in the shade Dusk, and I have owned this eyeliner for literally so long, and I use this just about every single day. And yep, it just keeps on rolling. This is how much I currently have left, and for the last like year and a half, I feel like I use this on a very, very, very consistent basis. I'm trying to see how far. Yeah, like even all the way rolled down, like I feel like I have not used that much of this. It's a really nice, just dark brown eyeliner, something that I like to reach for every single day. I actually do feel like this one does, that one doesn't have a mirror, of course. I do feel like this one does last on the waterline pretty well. I did have this on my waterline earlier. I feel like we could retouch. It's not like the most long-lasting eyeliner, but I do really enjoy it. I think it's creamy enough that it glides on really easy to the waterline, but I do feel like it lasts a decent amount of time. Not my longest wearing of all time, but a decent amount of time, and clearly the formula lasts for freaking ever. I have no idea what I paid for this, not a clue, but I believe I purchased this in either 2020 or 2021. And it's still going strong, and I definitely feel like I've gotten my money's worth out of that. And then the second product I have is the 24-hour brow setter by Benefit. Even when I want this to end, I feel like this is the brow setting gel that just never ends. And I've owned this twice, and I felt the same way about this the last time. And I feel like I'm like, is there really any brow glue still getting in my hairs? And then I'll like wipe it on the back of my hand, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're not even ready to take this stopper out yet. So if you are looking for I do feel like overall brow setters last a really long time, but if you're looking for one that's like the Mary Poppins of brow setting gels, I highly recommend the one from Benefit. I have one eyeshadow palette, and that is my ABH Jackie palette. I think the video will have already gone up, but if it hasn't, I do have a video coming, or again already posted, of my top used eyeshadow palettes in my collection, and this is one of them. This is one of my favorite eyeshadow palettes that I've ever owned. And while I still don't think I've gotten enough use out of this, I definitely do feel like I have gotten my money's worth out of this eyeshadow palette. A couple of pans in here. I definitely could stand to get even more pans in this palette, but if I lost this palette tomorrow, I would be devastated because I love this palette, but I also would feel like, well, at least I used it so much that I feel like I got my money's worth out of this product. So ABH Jackie is definitely up there. Then I do have one lip liner, and it's this one from ColourPop. And I will say, up until this year, I have not been a lip liner girly, but I've definitely become a lip liner girly this year. And part of the reason I feel like I've gotten my money's worth out of this product is because it is ColourPop, and I likely paid under $10 for this, maybe 12 because it was in collaboration with Barbie, but this was pretty cheap. And I feel like I've used this literally so much since owning it, and we still have like about half the pencil left. So I definitely had to mention that one. I do have two face palettes, which I feel like face palettes can be really tricky. You either love face palettes or you hate them, or at least that's how I've found myself kind of falling into either one of those categories. Like I'm either using a face palette all of the time, or I'm not using my face palette collection at all. But over the last couple of years, I've really grown a fondness towards face palettes, and one that I definitely feel like I've gotten my money's worth out of is the Lancome dual finish highlighting palette. I have a pan in all 3 of these shades. Now granted, I do find that these pans are more shallow than your average pan, but I've literally hit a pan in all 3, and I feel like I've used this palette probably close to 100 times, if not over 100 times. Like, I've used the crap out of this eyeshadow palette. I think the formula is really beautiful. I love all 3 shades, not necessarily all 3 for the face, but I love Frosted Rose on the cheeks. I also love Sparkling Peach on the cheeks, and then Gilded Gold I think is really beautiful on like my chest and neck. So definitely got a ton of use out of this palette. Feel like I've gotten my money's worth out of that. And then the one NARS palette that I feel like I have absolutely gotten my money's worth out of is the NARS Overlust palette. Again, I have 3 pans of this palette, and aside from, like, I get that this is a putty texture, but I feel like I've actually used all 3 of these highlights a lot. And then on top of that, I've also used all 3 of the blushes in this palette more times than I can count. I absolutely love this face palette. This is one of the face palettes that really kind of got me hooked on NARS and just really into the brand and kind of wanting to collect their face palettes. I think this is one of their more unique face palettes that they personally have launched, and I'm just a huge fan of this one. I continue to get excited to use this one, and I absolutely feel like I got my money's worth out of this. All right, I have 3 bronzers. Up first, I have my Marc Jacobs Tantastic bronzer. Now, this was a pricey bronzer, although in this day and age, I'm like, this really probably wouldn't even be considered that pricey anymore. But I paid $49 for this, and I have a huge pan in this. I've owned this for so long. This is such an old product in my collection, and it's just like the bronzer that keeps on going. Like, it took so much effort to even hit a pan, and I just feel like my pan is not expanding. And there's still so much bronzer left in this product. I absolutely feel like I've gotten my money's worth on this. And the other thing with this one is, even after finishing this, I feel like this is a great compact to keep, especially for travel, because it does have a larger mirror. You can easily like sit this up on something, and then I could easily repress something into the pan here. It's also sleek and thin, so I 100% feel like this was worth every penny, even if it's not my favorite bronzer to like today. It was at one point, and I feel like there's so much, like, I've used this so much, and I find the compact is extremely usable or handy. So I definitely feel like I got my money's worth out of that. I have the Nabla Skin Bronzing in the shade Ambra. First of all, I believe I only paid $24 for this, which I actually think is very reasonable for a bronzer. It's this really beautiful baked formula, and I have been trying to pan this for multiple years at this point in time, and I still don't even think I have a pan. Because it is a baked formula, I believe it is a waffle pan, that's what it looks like, but I still haven't been able to hit a pan on this. I'm certain I've used this well over 100 times, and I continue to use it, and I continue to not hit a pan on this. So I absolutely feel like I got my money's worth out of this one. Who knows how many more uses it's going to take me to actually even finish this up. It is a beautiful formula, a beautiful bronzer, and I could not recommend that one enough. And then the last bronzer I wanted to talk about is my Fenty Beauty Sunstalker bronzer. I have the shade Into Sun. I do have a small pan in this. I had to start using this as an eyeshadow to hit a pan in this, and even after hitting pan, I've used this so many times as an all over face bronzer, and the pan will not expand. Like, I swear this is like a bronzer that like recreates itself. It is absolutely wild to me. I do have some hard pan that I could definitely get rid of out of this bronzer. I'm starting, I feel like, to see like the faint outline of rings, but like, I've owned this. This is also a very, very old product in my collection. I can't remember when this launched, but I swear I purchased this bronzer when they launched. And this is one of my most favorite bronzers, most used bronzers in my collection, and still there's like no movement on that. All right, I have 3 blushes to talk about. So are we surprised? The Buxom Wanderlust blush in the shade Seychelles. I can't remember when these launched, but I definitely bought this when it launched. It has been a favorite blush of mine since owning it. It's this really beautiful, more like cool toned nude blush, and it has this satin sheen sort of finish to it, which I definitely love. A glowier cheek, not something totally matte. So I have, like, this has been one of my top bronzers since owning this in my collection. I put this in a rolling Project 10 pan to try and hit a pan on this, and I was not successful in that. In fact, there's like barely a barely a dip in this. I have used this, I'm certain, close to 100 times, if not over 100 times, and I'm literally not even close to pan on this. So this is absolutely worth the money. And then also my Bare Minerals bronzer in the shade Kiss of Copper. The year that this released and I purchased this, I could not stop wearing this blush. I wore this so frequently, and every single summer since, I have pulled it out and I use it quite a bit every single summer. I think it's such a beautiful shade for, again, kind of like a sun-kissed glowy cheek. There it is, swatched right there. It has this really beautiful like sunburn-esque sort of feel to it, but again has that glow to it, has that sheen, and isn't a totally matte blush. I think it's absolutely stunning, and I absolutely feel like I got my money's worth on that. And then same thing with the Nabla blush in the shade Truth. This is the skin glazing in the shade Truth. Again, I'm pretty sure I paid $24 for this. I've started to wear away the Nabla, but like not totally, but still I've reached for this. So these two, it was like I was reaching for one or the other, because I believe these launched around the same time, or I purchased these around the same time, and I have not been able to shut up about either of these since they launched. Again, both are going to give you a more glowy cheek, so if you like something matte, these are not going to be for you. But Truth paired over the Lawless blush in Angel Suede is like chef's kiss, pure perfection for like a sun-kissed pink cheek, in my opinion. Absolutely love, and absolutely feel like I got my money's worth. And then to wrap it up, I have one kind of blush topper and then 3 highlighters. So for my blush topper, I have the MAC Fairly Precious Extra Dimension blush. It's crazy because there was a point where I either decluttered this or was considering decluttering this, and I decided to keep it. And I will say I definitely use this more as like, almost as like a highlighter, but kind of like a highlight and blush topper. It's this really, really beautiful, almost warmer pink highlight is what I'm gonna say. And I think in 2020, either 2021 or 2022, I was pretty much reaching for this every single time I did my makeup that summer. And then same thing last summer, I was reaching for this so much. I have worn away quite a bit of the like imprint, but still I don't like, there's not really like a dip. Again, this is a baked product, so I'm not exactly sure what the pan is gonna look like, but I have owned this also for so long, and the last couple of years have used this so much. Definitely worth the money in my opinion. All right, and wrapping up with 3 highlights. So clearly there is a pattern with Nabla. I have the skin glazing in the shade Privilege. I think Nabla has such a beautiful skin glazing formula, clearly. This is, if I didn't say, in the shade Privilege, which is a little bit deeper than the shade Ozone, which I also own. I definitely reach for Privilege more than I do Ozone. And Privilege definitely matches me better when I have more of a self-tan. But it's this really beautiful kind of peachy champagne sort of shade. It has kind of like that peachy pinkness to it that kind of looks like skin rather than looking like this like Tin Man metallic stripe on the cheeks. And because it is a baked formula, it really just melts into the skin and really offers this beautiful glassy glow that I really love. I again have worn away quite a significant amount of the Nabla imprint, which for a highlight, like I get maybe not as impressive with a bronzer, but for a highlight, like I have used this a ton to be able to wear away the imprint that much. So definitely got my money's worth out of that. Then I have my Vesca Beauty highlight, and I have reached for this highlight in the shade Moonlight well over 100 times. I do have a pan in this, and I am currently working on this in my Graveyard Project pan, so I'm sorry if this pan is a bit of a spoiler. But I think this is the most beautiful kind of like yellow golden sort of like champagne shade. It's a little bit more subtle, and I have been preferring more of the subtle highlight, but then occasionally this year I've been like leaning into like a really glowy highlight. Again, I'd like to have like a juicy glow to the face, but I want it to look a little bit more like natural. But I think this is stunning. I love this also as an inner corner. It matches pretty much any look. Today, in fact, I used an inner corner. My inner corner is a shade out of the Huda Beauty Wild Tiger palette, and I felt like it was a little bit too deep, so then I just added a little bit of this, and I just this also mixes really well with other highlights to kind of bring things down or kind of change the tone or the color a little bit. I'm such a big fan of the Vesca highlight. I'm so sad that Vesca isn't a brand anymore, but happy to still have this and to be showing it so much love in my collection. And then the final product that has 100%, no questions asked, like I've gotten my money's worth out of this. I think I paid either 25 or 28. It's this little Bobbi Brown mini highlight in the shade Pink Glow. And first of all, the only reason I have the pan in this is I thought, because it's a baked product, I thought I had like hit the waffle pan. So I was like starting to scrape it to put it into a lotion to count as an empty. And then I realized like I had so much more product to go. I've owned this since 2018 and it is one of my top most used highlights. It's a beautiful pink highlight. You can make it a little bit more icy. You can make it a little bit more pink. This and the Becca Rose Quartz highlight are my absolute favorite. This is just a little bit icier, so it definitely works better for me in the like fall winter time. But one of my favorite makeup products of literal all time. I am absolutely certain I've used this well over 100 times, if not well over 200 times. And again, I paid under $30 for this. So if ever you're looking for like a blush or highlight, especially if you have a larger collection, I just couldn't recommend a mini enough. And I would say this is probably the best, like I've gotten my money's worth product out of all the ones that I've shared. But after that, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Those are the 15 makeup products in my collection that I am certain, well, maybe not certain, but I feel as though I have gotten my money's worth out of the amount of use that I've gotten on each of these products. I would love to know in the comments below, what makeup items in your collection do you personally feel like you have gotten your money's worth out of? Let a girl know in the comments below. Other than that, thank you guys so much for sticking around to watch today's video and for supporting me and my channel as you guys always do. I love you guys so much, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye.